Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this masterclass on unlocking rewarding career opportunities in banking and financial services by TCSion. Before we begin, I want to say a few words about SWAYAM Plus. SWAYAM Plus is an initiative by the Ministry of Education and IIT Madras. We are an industry and employability focused skilling platform to help learners upskill themselves and become more employable. In this regard, we are hosting a series of masterclasses so learners can hear directly from experts on what is happening in industry. This is a starting point for your transition from academia to industry. Your speaker for today is Mr. N. Mohan. He has done his PGDM from IIM Calcutta with a specialization in finance and strategy and got 99.3 percentile in CAT, Common Admission Test for IIM. He is also a qualified accountant, ICMAI, where he cleared with merit. He is also a certified associate of the Indian Institute of Bankers, CAIIB. Mr. Mohan is an AVP with TCS and is currently taking care of BFSI in the industry honors course team of TCSion. Mr. Mohan, we thank you for your time and we look forward to your invaluable expertise and insights. Over to you, Mr. Mohan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate. All participants, very good evening. And first of all, a big thanks from my side, right, for taking the time out and attending this session. So, fully appreciate. As Romit was just saying, right, so today we are going to look at an industry um, which is kind of an iconic status, right? Like whichever country, the BFSI is probably the most sought after sector, right? And today we will look into this sector in a little bit of a detail, and then I will kind of try and provide all of you with as much information as possible about what kind of roles are available, what kind of skill sets you need, and how do you make a successful transition, right, from your classroom to corporate, as we call it. Okay, so with that, what is BFSI? Okay, so here I want to first so when I started my career, right, which is like nearly more than 2 decades back, there was some the within this BFSI, the FSI was like very very minuscule, right? Of course, LIC was a big brand then, so insurance, like if you leave out LIC, nobody knew much about insurance, and financial services was more or less non-existent. So BFSI meant for a long time, and even now, a lot of us, right, a lot of students, and even otherwise, they kind of relate BFSI to banking. But with the advent of technology, with the advent of the spirit of entrepreneurship in India, there has been an explosion in the financial services sector, and the boundary lines, right, between a bank and a financial services company is also a kind of dimming, right. It is a very fine, very thin line now. So with almost anything and everything that a bank does, uh, majority of these financial services companies do. So what is BFSI, right? Banking, it is the biggest pillar within the BFSI, and within banking. So it is, let me admit, BFSI is an ocean, right? And if we are trying to cover something in BFSI, we may not be even able to cover everything in days together, right? So we just have like 45 minutes where we have to cover a lot of stuff. So I've tried to very very give brief points. So banking, you under banking, all kinds of banks come, right? You have your public sector banks, you have your private banks, you have your foreign banks, you have regional rural banks, you have micro finance banks, right? And then there are some very specific specialized banks like IDBI, which were floated with a very particular purpose and an objective in mind, right? So it's a big universe, right? But if you see, the fundamental um, functioning is the same, right? What does a bank do? Very simple layman term, they they accept deposits, right? The deposits from public, right? And then they lend those amount out as loans. Very simple, right? And they make their profit through what you call as net interest margin, right? Let's say that I am paying 8% for a fixed deposit for 3 years, and I'm using that fund to give a term loan for 3 years at a 12% interest rate. Very, very simply, very basically, 4% profit the bank makes, right? And then within that 4%, all other costs come, right? Your establishment cost, your staff cost, your compliance cost, all of that, and then you are left with. So this is the, but then what has changed? What has changed significantly? And I want to point out that except for maybe healthcare, BFSI is probably one industry which has been stormed by the technology innovation, right? It has been at the forefront of a lot of technological advancement. And the way banking is done nowadays, again I'm going back to my banking, right? When I joined a Punjab National Bank as a clerk, um, if you have to take 1,000 rupees, and this actually happens, right? You go to a bank, there is a withdrawal slip, you fill that slip out, you stand in the queue for nearly half an hour, and then you will get that 1,000 rupees, right? That is how my career. Now, how many of you even have ever gone to and I will be very honest, since 2009 I have not stepped into a bank till now. From 2009, so that is how banking has changed. The basic, whatever they do, it remains the same, right? We still withdraw money, we deposit money, but then the mode of delivery, the way the banks function, all of that have changed. But the core, the banking business remains the same. Then you have the financial services, right? And in a developing economy, it is always observed, right, that the ancillary industries around finance, they grow much much faster because they are, in a true sense, they are the real engines which bring about economic growth, right? So what how will a country grow? How will a country prosper, right? And what does it take for a country to prosper? The first is capital, right? Every company, right? The government can only spend so much, right? They collect taxes, they spend, so the government can only do so much, right? The real economic growth happens when the private sector, they start investing in the economy, right? Which could be in the form of capital, projects. It could be in the form of setting up new offices, new lines of business. So there has to be a very very significant conversion of physical and fixed assets into financial assets, right? Which means that all the other forms of assets at some point of time they get converted into financial assets in the forms of capital money. And that is where the real economic growth happens. And that is why you see in the last 10 to 20 years, as India has been on a super duper fast track trajectory when it comes to growth, maybe from the financial um, regulations were taken off, right, during Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. From that time, we are seeing a big explosion in these financial services company who play as critical a part as the banks themselves, right? Banks mostly they lend to corporate, but these financial services act as intermediaries, which help a lot of these corporates tapping into different kinds of funds, be it simplifying their processes, be it transforming the way they reach out to their customers. These service companies play a huge role. And that is where you see the kind of growth that financial services has witnessed, the kind of attractiveness, the kind of roles. You go and talk to any bright student, okay, what he will say is, I want to get into a fintech company, right? So that is the level of change, that is the level of transformation that these companies are driving. Again, financial services is an ocean. As I said, they do almost anything and everything that a bank steps, except maybe accepting a deposit from the public. So just for the principle of simplicity, I mentioned the three or four major tasks done by financial service companies, which are your stock exchange. So a lot of us, we relate stock exchanges only to a national stock exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange. There are a lot of other type of exchanges, right? Any platform driven buy and sell where it happens, it's a in a technical way an exchange. You have a Indian Energy Exchange where the power, the actual current, the power is traded between states, between government. Then you have something like commodity exchange, right, where almost any commodity gets traded, right? So any platform driven exchange, right, of goods comes under stock exchanges. The payments, this has been with the Prime Minister Modi taking over, and the payments. This is what I was telling, right? Compared to where we were like 20 years back, right, where we had those checks and withdrawals. So now, if we want to transfer money, or if the first thing that comes to our mind is Paytm karo, ya GPay karo, Phone Pay, Bharat Pay, whatever, right? Um, I am very sure majority of us might not have touched an actual physical currency. I mean, I have not touched a physical currency for quite some time, right? Everything we do either through an online transfer, or through all these apps, right? And these are and why it is kind of making the transfer of money easier. The quicker the money reaches the destination, the quicker it can be put into a economically productive function, and that is how the growth happens, right? RTGS, right? Let's say that I have to transfer 25 lakh to somebody. Previously, how it used to happen was, again, you draw a check, and then, or a draft. You go to a bank, you get a draft done, you send it through a registered post. It goes to the receiver. Then they again put it in their bank for collection. It used to take anywhere between 7 to 10 days for a draft to get encashed. Now, the same amount, it gets encashed in minutes, right? So think of it. I'm sending, let's say that I'm between intercompany, right? I'm sending a 10 crore to a company. The 10 crore, through this technological innovation, it is available for, I mean, instead of 10 days, they're going to get that in 10 minutes, right? So that means that 10 crore is going to be deployed in an economic growth or in an economically productive activity for 10 more days in a year. And look at the kind of ripple effect that will have. This is how the economic growth happens, and this is why I call these financial services companies, right, brands like Paytm. A lot of times we underestimate or we under appreciate companies like Paytm. What they have done is nothing less of spectacular, right? The fintech companies will come, right? I mean, you have multiple companies, both on the lending and on the payment side and other ancillary activities. Private equity, right? These are some key financial services company. Okay, then you have insurance, and I can stick my neck out and I can say that in a country like India, right, insurance is probably going to be, it is going to have a growth much bigger than what the banking sector has had, right? For the simple fact, just look at the number of um, formal roles that are being added in the Indian economy, right? With the advent of IT, a lot of these IT companies, and then so many big Indian corporates have grown. They're adding more people. A lot of foreign companies have set up their offices in India. So the hiring in the formal sector has picked up. All of them get covered by insurance, right? And as people prosper, right, as the economy grows, people also grow. The economic prosperity grows, and then people realize that suddenly they understand and appreciate the value of, like, 20 30 years back, you could still get a house for 1 lakh 2 lakh, right? Now, in nowadays, if you want to buy a decent house in a tier 2 city, you won't get anything below 1 crore, right? So it is that big an amount, right? And people normally and obviously they prefer insuring it, right? And similarly, lot of people are traveling, to different, be it a holiday, be it of official travel. The traveling has increased exponentially, right? Which comes with a lot of risk, so that needs insurance, right? So uh, insurance, right? And with the advent of technology, with lots and lots and lots of new innovations happening in the medical industry, almost any illness or any ailment is treatable with appropriate medical care. But then the medical care itself is kind of prohibitively expensive, right? So a lot of people now realize the importance of health insurance, right? So, and I was just I'll come to that in the next slide. So insurance is another sector where we are at a very, very nascent stage. I know brands like LIC were big even 50, 60 years back, right? But then again, this is where okay, this is another thing, right? Where the private sector also comes and they join hands, and the private sector basically fosters competition, right? And where there is competition, the services keep getting better, and efficiency, innovation, all of that naturally steps in, right? So that is where I feel insurance could be a, I mean, for the next 20, 30 years, we are going to have a phenomenal growth in insurance as well. So if you look at it, amongst all sectors, I know there is a lot of buzz around manufacturing for all valid reasons. BFSI stands out as a sector that is going to remain lucrative, that is going to remain attractive, that is going to remain iconic for a lot more decades. Okay. What makes BFSI? These are some data points. If you do a Google, you will be able to find it, guys. Right. So one thing I wanted to just let you all know, it is not here, right? When I spoke with insurance, and the same applies to almost the entire BFS sector in India. There is a metric called insurance penetration, and there is something called as a insurance density. Okay, insurance density is nothing but the per capita premium that an average Indian pays. I was astounded. One sixth of the per capita insurance premium of even a comparable country like Malaysia, right? Which means that continuously grow. And if you combine the population of India, we are more than GDPs of a lot of smaller nations, right? That is the amount of growth that we are talking about insurance. The same applies for banks, right? See, the first point, right? According to RBI schedule banks, all banks collectively, the deposits, right? It's surged by 2.1 lakh crore year on year, guys. 2.1 lakh. Actually, the banks, the multiplier effect, this 2 lakh crore becomes 20 lakh crore. So in an year, just the deposits, the incremental advances, we are talking about, I mean, these are bigger than the GDPs of majority of the nations, right? So that is the amount of scope that we are talking. The association of it's targeting a five-fold growth in AUM, right? And all of these numbers drive down. If the AUM grows, then your sales function grows, your back office grows, your analyst numbers grow, your the trader numbers grows. So it has a very ripple effect, and that is where this sector is poised to add an unimaginable number of jobs over the next decade or so, right? Mobile wallet industry, a CAGR of 24%. This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal, right? Where you know majority of India still lives in rural, and of course this is one where it has penetrated even the rural areas, but there are still a lot of people who are still comfortable with going to bank. Now once they start coming to all these wallets and payment gateways, look, this is we are poised for an explosive growth, right? So these are some data. and the penetration of Indian industry is less than 5%, right? So you combine penetration with the insurance density. I think we are looking at some huge numbers, right? And these are some pictorial representation. All of these is available. Just an indicative, right? As I said, deposits are the driving engines of banks, right? The banks convert the deposits into advances, and usually it is a multiplier effect. It could be 5x, 6x, right? And look at how, right? They have the deposits are more than doubled, right, within the last 10 years, right? And that too in a period where we had very low interest. It's only in the last couple of years the interest have gone up. The majority of the last 5 6 years, you were having fixed deposits at 4%, 5%, right? Even at that low deposit regime, the deposits have doubled, right, over a 5 to 6 year period. So that is the kind of growth that we are seeing. Same goes for insurance. The insurance density is here. And then look at the asset management companies. Now almost anyone, right? I mean, if you go and ask a college student now, the moment he gets his first salary, I am very happy to say that a lot of these kids have very good understanding of markets, right? The first thing they say is we want to put a SIP, we want to start investing in mutual funds, right? So a lot of interesting things happening, and this BFSI sector is set for an explosive growth. Okay, and yeah, okay. Now, having said that, let's look at again, as I said at the start of the session, right? It is an ocean, and it will take a lot of time if we actually want to go deep and talk in detail about all these things. But what I've tried to do is, in these three slides, I've tried to give you all a very good idea and indication of some of the roles, and these are only indicative guys. The actual designation may change. There could be a lot more roles which I might not have covered here. But it is safe to assume that these are some of the most spoken about and famous roles, right? The first and foremost, sales relationship manager. Okay, so um, mostly, unless you clear a specific, most of the banks, they hire from the campus for sales roles, right? You learn the tricks of the trade, and then you get into whatever role you want, right? Very easy entry point to a bank is sales, right? Or a relationship manager. Okay, this is one role which is high on soft skills, right? What are soft skills? Skills
Mr. Mohan, sorry to
which are
interrupt
more,
you, Romit here.
yeah, yeah.
Your voice has been breaking a little for a little while. It came back to normal and again it started breaking.
Really?
May I suggest,
Okay.
see if anything can be done on the connectivity part, or maybe try switching off your video just to improve bandwidth. We'll try that for a little while and see if it makes a difference.
Is it? Okay. 1 minute. 1 minute. Sorry about this. Okay. You let me know if it is any better. Amit. Is it better now?
Right now it seems fine. So please do continue.
It's okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Fine. Okay. So a sales role is very high on soft skills, right? Soft skills are where you use your uh, personality driven skills, right? It could be communication, it could be persuasive skills, it could be empathetic, right? Try and understand the need of your client and stuff like that, right? And you do need a little bit of product knowledge, but it is one role which is very very high on soft skills, right? All that you need is very good communication skills, hawk like customer focus. So in this I will tell you, participants, right? A lot of us, they I don't know, I mean, there are companies in India where we say that these guys keep calling you, right? Which you, they don't mind, right? How many ever time you call them, cut the phone, how abusive, right? How curt you are, but they still keep calling you. They still keep telling you what we are offering. You are eligible for this. You are. I don't want to name these companies, but these are the biggest, and that is how they've grown into such big brands. And that comes purely with unwavering customer focus, right? They will keep doing what is in the best interest of customer, no matter how many times the customers turn them down, right? So, a very good entry point to a career in banks is through sales role. Branch banking. I started my career in a branch, right? And I can tell you, of course, things have changed now. Things have drastically changed. Um, I learned anything and everything in my life. Whatever I am today, it is because of those 6 to 7 years that I spent in different branches of Punjab National Bank. Right, I learned so much, and we get to play different roles. You have to have very good knowledge, and usually banks have this concept. If you join banks as a probationary officer, for the first 2 years, they make you do 5 or 6 roles with an average tenure in each role being 3 to 4 months, right? Where you learn, let's say, loans, you learn deposits, you learn risk management, you learn ALM, um, you learn foreign exchange, treasury. So they keep moving you. The kind of learning that happens is phenomenal, right? And that sets you up for a very, very lucrative career in banks. Again, what do you need to be a branch? First is, most of these roles get hired through entrance exams, right? There could be banks which could be going to campuses and hiring, like, but most of the branch roles, I think even till today, IBPS is what conducts the exam, right? What do you need? Product knowledge. Again, this is another role that is very, very high on soft skills, because you will have people breathing down your neck, right? Because there is no boundary in a branch, right? Your customer, there is no phone, right? In a phone, it is easier to handle a tough customer, right? Because you are not seeing his face, and the customer is not, whatever is happening, you have the cover of you don't see the face. But in a branch, it doesn't happen, right? The customer is standing right in front of you. And if, I mean, I have had experiences, right, where it's very tough, but it's very enjoyable, right? The moment you solve a problem, the kind of instant appreciation, the instant sense of achievement that you get, nothing can compare, right? So branch banking is suitable for those who are ready for this kind of, and it is day in and day out, right? From 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. you have to do it. That is how some of these people also grow very fast, right? Because you can have a very good growth. Wealth management, it is no different from a normal sales role, except that these wealth management professionals will mostly be dealing with high net worth individuals, right? So the stakes are pretty high. The stakes are pretty high. You will be dealing with very, very big people. It could be a Virat Kohli, it could be a Dhoni, it could be a Akshay Kumar, it could be a Rajinikanth, whoever, right? Um, Extremely high stakes, um, and very, very competitive, and there is very little margin for error, right? Because when you are talking with such senior people who have time at a premium, you have to get it right the very first minute, right? And a lot of banks also offer these to salaried people, depending on their salary and all. But nevertheless, right, the moment you talk about wealth management, you are talking with people who have good chunk of money to um, invest, right? And so you have to be, again, excellent communication skills, very good customer focus, and then this is where a little bit of a hard skill comes, where you also need to know, um, right, depending on the age, you do a risk profiling. You should be able to suggest different allocation among different asset classes. That is where you need to have a very, very, very good understanding of different asset classes, the risks that comes with each of this, like how can I say, right? Let's say that buying gold is always looked at as one of the safest option, but then the returns are also very, very minimal. Compare that with a high risk investment, right? Like whatever, right? Even equity stocks, where the returns are much better, then it also comes with risk, right? So you should be in a position to such all of this you will learn, and there are very specific wealth management courses that are rolled out by institutes like CFA and all, where if you qualify them, you become a certified wealth management professional, which will really help you do well. And this is again sales roles. Sales roles are very high growing, very fast growing, and very well paid job, because if you're able to sell more, you will get more money. Okay. Investment banker. So I want to qualify this, guys, right? So investment banker is, quote unquote, the most glamorous, right? If somebody says that I have become an investment banker, that means it is like for a cricketer playing in Lords, or it is like a cricketer playing in Eden Gardens, right? It is like a T20 cricketer playing for Chennai Super Kings or any other good IPL brand, right? This is as good as it gets. Now, within this investment banking, there are multiple different roles, right? There is a front end, and there is a back office, right? um, Usually the front office investment banking roles, they go to your premier, the top of the tier institutes. Like I passed out from IIM Calcutta, so lot of these big foreign banks like Merrill Lynch, Credit Suisse, okay, UBS, they all come, Goldman Sachs, they come and hire for front end roles, right? Where what do you mean by front end role is they will actually be handling, again, they might be doing wealth management, same, but the stakes are much higher, or they may be actually sitting in the trading desk and executing the actual trades. They might be writing models to mitigate risk and stuff like that. But within the investment bank, there are also unbelievable career opportunities available in the back office, right? And India is with our the kind of knowledge base we have, right? We have some the kind of brilliant students that come out of the Indian commerce stream, the Indian economics stream, the BBAs, MBAs, economics, CA inters, ICW inters. Lot of these big investment banks have set up their back office in India, right? You get some phenomenal roles like Wells Fargo, just an example. Their entire letter of credit, the documentation, and the fund requirement, the fund estimation, everything is done out of India, and we are talking about billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars, right? Because it's a huge bank and they have LC. So there is a front end, there is a back end. Most of these back office roles are available to BCom, MCom, BBA. So it is available. The front office for big foreign banks, ideally it gets restricted to your tier one tier, the top tier MBA colleges. But the Indian business sources, right? They are also growing. Now they are going to campuses and they are picking bright, even BCom, BBA, MBA students from all Indian cities, right? Companies like your Anand Rathi, Motilal Oswal, angel broking. They are so you get to do the front office in investment banking also, right? One of the most sought after roles, and if somebody says that I'm in investment banking, they say it with a lot of pride. You need very good hard skills. The soft skills are very, very minimal here, guys, unless the only soft skill you need is how to manage your boss, right? Other than that, you are on a system. You should have very good quantitative aptitude. You should have very good economic knowledge, modeling skills. You should have a brilliant understanding of fixed income, which means that you should be good at statistics and all of that. Okay. Analyst is a very, very generic term. Whatever functions a bank has, you will have an analyst there, right? It could be a credit analyst, it could be a KYC analyst, it could be an ALM analyst, it could be a reporting, right? But again, because of the size and scale of the functions, right, which have expanded phenomenally. These analysts are finding the industry needs a huge number of analysts, right? And what you need to become a good analyst: critical analytical skills, eye for detail. um, you should be very good at modeling and dashboard, see, and good excel skills. See, there are a lot of times where um, I have seen in my career, right, where we used to do FP&A for a very big US multinational. I had one person, right, who was very, very good with numbers, and I mean, the kind of analysis that he does, nobody else can do. But his presentation was the issue, right? He was not good at PPT, right? So we put him through a special course, and then the end result, right? So you are dashboarding with so many other dashboarding tools. It is not only enough that you are a good analyst, you should also know how to present them to make a killing in that career. So that is what you need. A credit officer. So I think I'll have to rush through a little bit. So credit officer, you should have a very good understanding of the ratio and balance sheet analysis. You should know how to do a company analysis, right? Just by looking at, I mean, I have worked in loans and advances. Just by looking at a balance sheet, I can make out, right, whether the company is doing well. All that you need is you compare, let's say, a liquid ratio or a current ratio with the industry standards, and you look at um, what is driving the current asset or what is driving the current liability. You will get the answer, right? As simple as that. But then you need to know the concepts, right? What is the current asset? What is the current liability? And then you are set, right? Again, one of the most sought after roles, because credit, you can go all the way up to a GM credit, which is a pretty big kind of role, right? Then ALM, ALM executive. ALM has become because the banks, which nowadays the banking has become very difficult, guys, right? Every day something or the other keeps happening, right? And let's take what is currently happening, right? You have one situation where the US Fed is cutting rate, the ECB is cutting rate, RBI is holding on to rates, the yields are surging. um, your deposit interest rates are not going down, but your demand for loans is coming down. So this asset liability management, because this is if a bank does not get its asset liability matching right, the bank will fail. The one major reason a bank can fail is where there is a mismatch between its asset and liability, right? So this is a very, very critical role. And you will learn it over a period of time within the 6 7 years, but if you can get into a analyst role, and then you can become an executive, then it is, you can go all the way right up to the top through an ALM. You need to have very good understanding. These are roles which are very, very which needs good hard skills, right? Which needs soft skills don't play much of a part. Again, you should have a very good understanding of interest risk, right? Short term, long term interest swaps. How do you manage interest risk and all? Good knowledge of treasury, forex, and very good risk management. Audit is probably the in thing, guys, right? Because as I said, the roles and the responsibilities of banks have kind of spread so much that there is risk from almost um, anything and everything that a bank does, a banker does. He's exposed to risk. He or she is exposed to a risk in any form. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a forensic attack. It could be a fraudulent customer. It could be a failure of KYC. Paytm, we just saw, right, 1 year back what happened. RBI put a ban on Paytm, saying you cannot onboard new customers because your KYC didn't meet. So it could be. So you have to have a very, very strong risk management. It is not enough that you have a risk management process. You have to have a continuous audit, right, to make sure that the processes are sufficient. What are the failure points of process? So these go hand in hand: risk management, audit. IT, I know we have quite a few engineering students here. So I will see from a banking perspective, IT is kind of a horizontal, right? What is a horizontal? Um, which does not need much of an industry knowledge, but which can be applied across industry, right? So you will still be you doing your DevOps, you will still be doing your server management, you could still be doing your web development. But within IT, primarily, the IT itself falls in the middle office of a bank, right? Very, you don't have much to do in the front end, but there are some very good roles that are in the middle of where you design the risk management software, where you design the server management, all of that. Um, and the new areas, right, that are evolving, the data scientists, AI, machine language, I put them under IT. Though strictly, again, within IT they may not be strictly IT, but a data scientist basically has to be very very good in an underlying the business. He should know how to extract data. It could be big data, and more importantly, he should know, from that ocean of data, he should be able to pick what he needs. That will need a good industry knowledge, and then prescribe some solutions. AML, these are all functional consultant. A lot of us, lot of IT companies, we have a role called functional consultant, right? Who act as the bridge between, let's say, a client says, you go to a Citibank, right? A TCS, right? And then Citibank gives this role to TCS, where they entrust TCS with developing a website. Now the engineers know how to develop a website, but somebody who is well versed with banking, he only know, right, what are all the things that should be there in the website. If I click this should happen. If I say withdraw deposit, it should withdraw deposit, right? It should apply the penal interest. So all of that banking knowledge comes from functional consultant, who act as a bridge between the IT and the customer. Okay. Financial services, more or less, I am not going to spend time on roles that we have already discussed. Stockbroking, okay. So, stockbroking is an explosive, guys. I mean, and as I said, in a country which is growing as fast as India does, the stock exchanges play a huge role in enabling the conversion of physical assets into financial asset, right? So you have a lot of good roles available here. You could be a trader, you could be you could be a risk analyst, you could be a reconciliation expert, because a lot of after the trades are done, there is a lot of reconciliation needed. You have to comply to a lot of accounting standards. You have to execute the trade. You have to determine the mark to market risks, and also lot of good roles are available with the stockbroking companies. Another very good role that a lot of us tend to overlook is research executive. You have these rating companies. Of course, the big is Moody, Standard and Poor, but in India, you have a CARE, you have a CRISIL. These companies, they continuously evaluate Indian companies, and then they assign rating. Basis this rating, they get fund, and this rating determines the cost of the fund that these come. Let's take an example of, maybe, let's say, IFCI or Power Grid, right? IFCI, let's say IFCI, right? IFCI needs thousands and thousands of crores every year because it is into infrastructure funding and development, right? Now, and let's say that they float a paper, right, where they say that we are issuing a bond with a holding period, right? Whatever. Um, the funding, the cost of funding purely depends on what kind of rating that an IFC. It could be triple A, it could be double A plus, it could be B minus. You have a lot of categories, right? Now, how that rating happens, you need to have a very good knowledge of how to analyze a company, how to value a company, right? Evaluation plays a and all of this gets covered in CA courses, ICWA courses, MCOM. I think even some of the BCom courses cover the valuation at a fundamental level, right? So you will do very well if you are good at all of these things. Risk management, audit, IT, they are more or less the same. It's just that how you define risk, what kind of risk might change, but the fundamental concept remains the same. Insurance, again, more or less the same. The claims analyst and all, you need to have a very good knowledge of the underlying. Let's say that somebody has taken a motor insurance, and then they say that I was driving. I just banged my car against this tree, and he's claiming a 1 lakh, um, insurance. You should you should know a little bit of the underlying um, car, right? So you should know a little bit of mechanical engineering. You should know a little bit of um, other stuff to accurately evaluate. So the claim analysis plays a very big role. Actuary is a very very coveted role, guys. I don't know how many of you know there is an Institute of Actuaries of India. It's one of the toughest exam. They get paid. They end up a survey. They get it's one within insurance. This is probably the most. It is like the investment banking, right? The actuaries. The exam is tough. A lot of other colleges, they do offer courses in actuary, but ideally, if you have to really become a big actuary in some big insurance companies, you need certification from the Indian actuaries, and it's a very tough exam. You have to be very very good in um, maths and statistics, the distribution for a given risk. What kind of distribution will I use? A normal distribution? Will I use a binomial distribution? So you have to be very good with statistics and max. Tough exam, but worth it. Underrated, again, you need to have a very good concept of the risk that you are getting exposed, right? And how you are going to price it, a particular premium, so that so what is insurance, right? If you look at it, it is a pooled sharing of risk, right? Let's say that 1 lakh people will pay a 1,000 rupee premium, out of which 10 people will meet with unfortunate incident where the insurance company will shell out a big amount. But then the rest 1 lakh, out of this 1 lakh, let's say 90,000 people's premium will just act as a safety guard against an untoward incident, right? So that is how insurance companies make their profit, right? So you need very good underwriting skills. Again, analyst, insurance broker. Bank assurance is nothing but this has become very, because a lot of the big banks have also started. They all, I mean, um, they might all have actually started as a financial company, and then they have spread. Let's say HDFC, right? HDFC has a bank. HDFC has a life insurance. HDFC has a general insurance. Similarly, ICACI, Bajaj, they all have a banking or a lending arm. They also have an, because these go hand to hand, right? Like most of you would have, if you take a home loan, um, mostly, right, the moment you take a home loan from HDFC, that person, whether you like it or not, whether you want it or, most of us end up buying an insurance from HDFC for the first 3 years, right? And this is what you know as bank assurance, right? It is no different from any other selling, just that you should have a good product knowledge. Risk, IT, these are like horizontal, guys. I mean, even risk is, right, the if you know the concept of risk more or less, you should be able to apply it, except that there could be some specific risk for a given line of business. Other than that, the methodology, the tools are all the same. This is what this slide I actually would have wanted to cover. This slide itself we could actually spend about an hour or two, but due to paucity of time, um, a huge explosion of growth opportunities seen in BPO and shared services. I come from, I worked in both BPO and shared service, right? I worked in GE, which was a shared service, and then in IBM, I was part of the shared service. Then I was part of the BPO. In TCS, I've handled a third party client which comes under BPO. Phenomenal growth opportunity, right? And within this, there is a distinction between shared service and BPO. Shared service is where the companies, the big global conglomerates, they set up their own back office in India, right? And this is, if you all read paper, I mean, this is you go anywhere, LinkedIn, you go to Times of India, you go to Economic Day, this is what it is buzzing. Almost everybody, and it need not be only in BFS, right? It is in engineering, it is in marketing, Bosch, Cargill, anybody, right? So the shared service of big global conglomerates, we you do their back office from India. A BPO is a pure play third party. where a lot of these Indian IT companies, and then you have a pure play BPO companies like FirstSource, you have a Genpact, and they hire in mass, right? And you can have a phenomenal growth. I can tell you, one of my IBM, um, he's now a very senior leader. He's a I don't know. He was a hotel management graduate, right, when he joined IBM. Today, he works out of Singapore. He's a senior vice president there. Within 25 years, he's become a senior vice president. He's one of the most famous faces for IBM in the ASEAN side, where he's running their AI business. Right, that is the kind of growth that these BPO companies offer. Right, very very fast growth and very well paying. So this is worth looking. So with that, I think. Okay, I will just like to call out, when it comes to shared service or BPO, you will need more of accounting knowledge, and within accounting, specific areas, right? Somebody who's very good in accounts, right? Who's very good with journals, who's very good with accounting concepts. That is what we need, because we are talking about the payables, receivables, and the general ledger process here, right? Vis-a-vis um, pure play finance that we looked at in a banking or a financial services, right, where you need to have understanding of the valuation techniques, the fixed income market, the equity, the risk. Here it is pure play um, accounting, right? You should know, you should be good in accounts. You can make a killing here, and a lot of soft skills will be required, because you will be working with clients. It could be an American company, it could be a German company, it could be a Japanese company. So you will get an international exposure, and you need very good soft skills. Okay, with that, I end my presentation. I hope within the given time I managed to cover some of these areas and skill sets needed. Yeah, yeah, we can go to the Q&A. So yeah, I'm done with the any questions, any clarifications, please feel free to ask.
Yes, I request the participants to please type your question in the chat and we'll go through them one by one. We have
Yeah.
our first question.
Mhm.
We have the first question. I'm trying to understand if it's necessarily relevant to BFSI, but the first question from Saurabh is how to become a data scientist.
Right. So, a data scientist, first of all, I will split data science into, it is one area where you need a combination of hard skills and soft skills. Okay. What do you mean by hard skills? You have to be good in, let's say, whatever, right? You have to be good in Excel. You have to be good in spreadsheets, even some kind of a data retrieval tool. So that is a hard skill, right? First thing is that, and then the second is you should have definitely industry knowledge, right? Let's say that you work in a pharma company, right, and somebody asks you to um, um, you are working as a data scientist, and let's say that you are tracking a R&D, right? In pharma companies, the R&D runs into billions of dollars, right? So then, you should know a little bit of um, the pharma industries, right? The time to market, the different stages in developing a molecule, how it will be eventually marketed, the kind of approvals needed, what is the approval cost, what is the inspection cost, all of that, right? So you will need, and then you will be, so an data scientist is somebody who tries to make sense out of data, as simple as that, right? Who swims through oceans and oceans of data, and then he picks the most relevant, and then he presents in a way that the management can understand and take actions, as simple as that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mohan. We had a question. Can you tell us something about TCS BPS? Or maybe he meant BPO.
Oh, Yeah, TCS. I hope my audio is good. TCS BPS is a very fascinating place to be in. Where again we serve almost all, right. We have finance and accounting, we have supply chain, we have HR, right. A lot of the HR roles are also done as part of the TCS BPS. A very fast growing area within TCS. We cater to a lot of multinational clients, Indian clients, even to a lot of other Tata groups. So very so it is the back office arm of TCS. While the IT services, they develop the IT applications. We the BPS actually deals with the processes, right? As I said, it could be a payable process, it could be a receivable process, and we do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I'll read two questions together, Mr. Mohan.
Mhm.
One is, could you explain actuary once more, which we can do shortly. I would like you to answer one, which is, do you consider MBA the option to get into these roles?
Okay, the second is very simple to answer. No, definitely not. Um, with with the kind of explosive growth we are seeing in BFSI, everyone has a very good chance of making a killing in the sector, right? As I said, um, whether you are a BCom student, whether you are an economic student, MCom, MBA, BBA, CA Inter, ICAA Inter, companies, everybody, and all of it, it doesn't need an MBA, and all these streams have an equal opportunity to make it very big. See, how we grow in a career, it purely depends on us. The degree is only give you a stepping stone, um, which all of these are now providing. How successful we are, it purely depends on us. The actuary, so I think if, we may not have enough time. So the actuaries are the ones who actually price the premiums, right? Let's say that, um, and it involves a lot of statistical modeling. I don't know if you guys would have seen, if you go for health insurance, the first thing that they will ask is, how old are you, what is your weight, do you drink, do you smoke, do you have blood pressure. And depending on how we answer, they would have modeled, right. Somebody who answers yes, that I consume alcohol, I smoke, obviously his price of premium will be more than somebody who doesn't drink or smoke, right. And all of this, the actually they it involves very very high level of statistical, because a lot of these follow distributions. You should be able to know which distribution to apply, write complex models, and come out with a dynamic pricing. So it's a very very specialized, and it is a very tough exam, but extremely well paid job actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. So we have a couple more questions, but I think I will take one more, and this may be a sort of maybe not a typical question that comes, but someone is asking, that is Parameshwar is asking, can you tell me the process if one wants to start one's own asset management company and mutual fund?
No, no. um, so um, I, I mean, I am very interested in stock. So what how you can do is, you know, this you have something called as a portfolio management route, right. There are multiple, so you'll have to first get an approval from SEBI, so for which you need to have certain qualifications. Once you satisfy, you should have a minimum net worth, and then right, once you get the license from SEBI, you can float a portfolio management company, or it could be an alternative investment plan, and there are multiple schemes available. But usually, um, um, there are some very strict requirements and guidelines around who are all eligible, and the whole granting of license. The most important is, even if you do get license, even if you start your company, the minimum investment in your own portfolio and all is like, the minimum 50 lakh, right. So you should have the, you should have, so usually how people start their own asset management companies where they work in big, let's say somebody has worked in Geojit, somebody has worked in Motilal Oswal, DSP, Merrill Lynch, for 10 years, where they could actually be fund managers in some of these companies, and then they develop that clientele network, right? They develop that contact, and then eventually, recently, one of my good friends with Axis, he was the chief investment officer of Axis. He has started his own fund. So that's how you should have good contacts, and you should have excellent knowledge of markets. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. I think we'll take one more. We're on at 6 o'clock. Um, question from Kirti, who says, I have done my BBA recently. I'm preparing for banking exams. I
Mhm.
want to know what I can do along with this in order to make a career in banking and financial services. What should be the first step to upskill?
So there are a lot of opportunities. I would say if you are very, very um, interested in banking, I would say within banking, maybe you should look at something like a invest. So maybe your first step could be where you look at CFA as an option. CFA is a tough exam. Even if you clear one group, it will give you a lot of conceptual understanding of a lot of things. So CFA could be one, and you could also try your hand at MBA from any good college. But I would suggest, while you do all these courses, um, no harm in clearing a basic exam and joining even as a. So I started my career as a clerk in Punjab National Bank, right? And as I said, from a clerk in PNB, I ended up, you know, whatever, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm successful or whatever, right? Whatever I've done in my life, I started as a clerk. I learned a lot of things. So, um, but CFA could be a good course, right? It's a strenuous course, but you can look at it. You can also look at other courses like CA, ICAA you can look. Then you have this ACCA, CIMA, if you really want to get into the accounting side of business. But yeah, CFA could be a good value add, but it's a very tough exam.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. So I think we can conclude here. So once again, thank you, Mr. Mohan. It was a very enlightening session indeed. A big thank you to all participants for attending and actively participating with your questions. I request you to register on SWAYAM Plus and follow us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter. We are also on YouTube, where the recording of this video shall be uploaded for your future reference. Thank you all once again and wish you a very good evening and a happy learning journey with SWAYAM Plus.
And Romit, I'll just like to add, I put my LinkedIn profile at the start of the chat. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn during weekends. I mean, whatever, just you feel free to reach out to me, team. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. If you'd like, you can post it once more at the bottom.
The chat, na? 1 minute. Let me see if it is the same copy paste. Yes, I have just posted it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'll stop the recording and I'll end the meeting
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.